Welcome to Scrambled, your space for fertility, owning your 30s, and the scramble that makes it all worth it. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today, we have Gabby Parsons. She is going to share her story of egg freezing, and her journey is not as conventional as others, and she's here with us today to explain why. So welcome. Welcome, Gabby.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so
We're
excited to be
excited to
on.
have you.
Yeah, we are. I feel like so far, like the episodes that we have put out are kind of like explaining what scrambled is. We've started to talk about like what egg freezing is, what IVF is. But I think something that people don't realize is that the people that access IVF or that access egg freezing aren't just people that want to like preserve their fertility because they're of the age where they're like, hold on, I'm getting a bit older. Like I know my fertility might be dwindling, or people that are like struggling to conceive. There's like a whole plethora of reasons that people are introduced to the egg freezing and IVF world.
Mhm.
So we would just love to hear your story about how you happened to go through this journey yourself.
Yeah, no, for sure. For some background, I'm Gabby. I'm 25 and I live in New York City. I'm originally from Maryland, but I've been living in New York for about 3 years now. In April of 2024, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And as a part of that diagnosis and treatment, I decided to do egg freezing. Although at the time, egg freezing definitely felt like a smaller part of the overall cancer journey, I'm really glad that I did it. And I think it was really important that I did. Thanks for having me on again. Excited to kind of share what that experience was like for me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, you're so young. I'm so sorry that you've even been confronted with a diagnosis like that. How old were you at the time that this all was going on?
Yeah, so I was 24. I was diagnosed in April of 2024. And among the first conversations I had with my doctors, kind of talking about my surgery and my upcoming treatment plan, one of the first questions I asked was how treatment may impact my fertility. So I was really lucky that I didn't need to do chemo or radiation as a part of my treatment. And the radioactive iodine treatment that I was going to do actually isn't proven to be detrimental to fertility. So it wasn't even deemed absolutely completely necessary to do beforehand. In fact, I actually spoke to one doctor about it who urged against doing egg freezing at the time initially. And I think from his perspective, he just knew how much my body was about to go through and how difficult it would be to add something to my plate at the time. So if it wasn't 100% necessary to preserve my fertility, why put my body through more than it absolutely needed to? And I really appreciated that perspective and his sensitivity to my situation. But I ultimately made the decision to still prioritize egg freezing as a part of my treatment plan. So I did it between my neck surgery and my radioactive iodine treatment.
Yeah, okay. Can I just ask, like, at that young age, you're confronted with this, I'm sure, very scary moment in your life where you're being told, hey, like, we've discovered that you have a form of cancer. What made you think in that moment, or maybe after you digested that information, what made you think about your fertility in terms of that link?
Yeah, so my mom worked in the fertility industry for several years. So egg freezing, fertility treatment, it was never really a foreign concept for me. In fact, my mom always said that for my 25th birthday, she was gifting me with egg freezing. Quite the birthday gift, I know. But so for me, it was always something, I think, unlike a lot of people, it was something that I kind of knew that I would do at some point in my 20s, regardless of what my baseline fertility testing looked like. So obviously, I didn't expect to need to be really thinking about it at 24 years old. And I didn't realize how tight of a timeline it would be and that there wouldn't be much planning ahead of it. But it was something that I kind of figured I would do eventually. And so why not make sure that like I do the baseline testing now before my body's about to go through so much, at least have the baseline level of knowledge and be able to plan a little bit proactively.
Yeah. And I guess that's just, you were lucky that your mom was in the industry to have the knowledge and know about it, because it was probably less scary to you to hear about, and especially with one doctor advising against it, you were probably like, I know I'm doing this anyway, so why not do it now?
Yeah, and I think for me, like, I've always known that I wanna have kids at some point. At the time, my life also just felt like it was filled with so much uncertainty, and I'm a control freak, so feeling like so much was out of my control at the time as it relates to my health was really tough for me. So making the decision to prioritize freezing my eggs at the time kind of felt like a proactive measure I could take to take back a little bit of control in my life and in my future, especially knowing my long-term goal of wanting to be a mom and have a family of my own. And I think my diagnosis also just really reinforced in me that, like, I don't know what's going to happen to my health in the next several years, whether it's related to thyroid cancer, fertility, or maybe something completely different. So why not make this a priority now, even if it's not deemed totally necessary as a part of my treatment plan?
For sure. I mean, we talk a lot about how we take our health for granted in every aspect. When you're young, you kind of do feel invincible. So I think it's a really mature thing that you were able to do at 24 to be confronted by a health scare and look at it more holistically than just the thing that was sitting right in front of you. I mean, that's pretty incredible. It's like, I don't think at 24 years old I would have been able to cope with that or even think that far into the future.
If you're willing to share, I know, just to backtrack a little, how you got diagnosed, how you found out you had thyroid cancer, the journey through it with the egg freezing, and kind of where you are today. And I know you said luckily you didn't have to go through chemo or radiation. So after the treatment that you did do, what does your fertility look like today?
So I got diagnosed, as I mentioned, in April of 2024. I had noticed a couple months before, kind of like I felt something when washing my face and my neck. Didn't see it at all, kind of out of sight, out of mind. I was busy just like living my normal life, forgot about it. A couple months later, I had this dream that I had cancer in the lymph nodes in the right side of my neck. It totally freaked me out. I woke up hysterical. I'm not a hypochondriac. I'm not like an anxious person, but that kind of like let me connect the dots in a way, like, oh, like, remember I felt something a few months ago. I didn't really think anything of it. At night, I was like deep in Google searching. I convinced myself I had lymphoma. I made an ENT appointment as soon as I could. I told no one at the time because I didn't really want to say it out loud and I thought I was just being crazy.
I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but like that dream, I'm sorry, someone's looking out for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, but that kind of led to me getting scans and then biopsy and ultimately diagnosed.
And so you were correct. Your dream was correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had in May of 2024, I had neck surgery to remove my thyroid and 55 lymph nodes in my neck where it had spread. And then so kind of timeline wise, I prioritized doing the surgery first, but I knew that I wanted to do the egg freezing before I did the radioactive iodine treatment to follow. So squeeze that in July and then finish the rest of my treatment thereafter. At this point, I'm feeling great. Like now it's really just maintenance and scans every 6 months and blood work and all of that fun stuff. As far as my fertility goes, I actually haven't gotten like tests since then to see what my AMH looks like and what my follicle count looks like. That's honestly something I'm curious about. I probably should do that. But again, the radioactive iodine treatment isn't supposed to be detrimental to fertility. It was just really something that I wanted to do proactively, especially because my baseline fertility testing looked really good. So I felt very fortunate about that. And I just felt like I'd rather be safe than sorry. Like, who knows what could happen in the next however long. Like, I might as well do this now.
I think that's such a good idea because a lot of people might not realize, and I'm not going to get into the weeds of it, but your thyroid function and your overall endocrine system has a big relationship to your ability.
You said that's so cute.
To full
endocrine. Endocrine.
We're not from the same place. Has an ability to impact your ability to maybe conceive or ovulate. There's a big link between all of these things. So really proactive decision from you. And I think probably a really sensible one. Not to say that everyone needs to make the same decision, but I think even just having this conversation is going to make people think if they have health concerns in the future, maybe this is something that should come to the forefront of their mind. So I think that's a super important conversation.
Yeah.
There's different types of patients that I see in the onco-fertility setting, so people that have cancer diagnosis. And for some people, they're recommended to do it a little bit differently to you. But for some people, there are certain types of cancers that unfortunately mean they have to do treatments that might impact their reproductive organs. So they have to go through the process. So there's a lot of people that have to use or want to use IVF and egg freezing for the purpose of an underlying other medical condition. And unfortunately, cancer is a super common one. What did that look like for you? Like, obviously, you're prioritizing other treatments for your thyroid, which is completely understandable. But in there, you wanted to squeeze in the whole egg freezing cycle. And it's not a 2-day commitment. It's about a 1-month commitment. So what did that look like for you? How did you make that work in amongst all of the other stuff you had going on for your health?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and Alyssa, as you know, the egg freezing process is definitely really physically draining, but it could also be very emotionally draining. I think I was fortunate to know that all of my baseline fertility tests looked good. So the outcome of my egg retrieval wasn't a huge concern for me. So I think that adds a lot of stress to a lot of people who have to do egg freezing, which fortunately I didn't really need to experience. But nonetheless, it's not the most fun process ever. The actual process itself takes about 2 weeks. It requires you to have blood work and ultrasounds pretty much every other day and giving yourself injections twice a day. I think the best word to use to describe the physical process of egg freezing is inconvenient or maybe disruptive. I don't mind shots, luckily, so giving myself the injections wasn't a big deal, but it definitely gets annoying needing to do it twice a day, several shots, needing to be consistent with the times, having some of the injections making you feel kind of shitty. And then also the blood work and ultrasound appointments every other day were definitely disruptive to daily life. And these clinics are run so well. Like, you can start as early as 7 a.m. for these monitoring appointments. They have you in and out so quickly, like little to no wait time. So it was a really smooth experience, but it still obviously is disruptive to your everyday.
Yeah. I remember, I mean, I obviously did it 4 times, but the timing of the shots, you have like a 3-hour window for the morning ones and the night ones. I actually had 3 or 4 shots a day, right?
Yeah, you were doing more.
I was doing more, and I would be like, I have this dinner plan and I need to go home, do a shot, then go back out to dinner. And I said this in a previous episode, but like 1 year or 1 month, I didn't even go home for Thanksgiving because I like had to do these checkup appointments and do these shots. And like, yeah, it's just very inconvenient. That is the right word.
I did some of my shots like in a bathroom at a restaurant. Like,
some of them become so second nature to you. I remember I would be like running out the door for work and being like, oh my God, I forgot to do my shot, and like take the pen and like jab myself mid-run to the elevator and throw it out. Like,
well, so you guys must be far more competent than me, because I remember when I was first doing my shots, I was so stressed that I was doing it wrong. And like, you're doing it by yourself. There are step-by-step videos to walk you through
they're
it.
horrible.
And like,
they don't teach you anything.
maybe I should have paid more attention. But like, my injections became a full group activity with the involvement of both of my parents.
Oh yeah.
So it definitely obviously could be an individual activity, but I had a full team going through the motions with me to make sure I wouldn't mess it up.
I say to patients all the time, because that's like a big thing people say to me. They'll be like, oh my God, I was so scared about my injections and it took me so long to feel like confident in what I was doing, and I still didn't by like day 14. And I'm like, I went to nursing school and got a tertiary education in how to administer medicine. We showed you a video that goes for 30 seconds and asked you to do it at home. Don't feel like that. Like, it's very normal for that to be scary.
Yeah. And you're like, am I doing the right dosaging? Is the powder dissolved? Then they're like, if there's a bubble, it could lead to something when you inject it and have you whatever. And I'm like, is there a bubble in here? But Ashley said this on a previous episode too. It's like, they would never allow you to do it yourself if it was dangerous.
If it was life-threatening.
If it was life-threatening.
No.
Like, sure, you might mess something up. Sure, you might mess up the timing. You might screw up the whole process, but It's not going to do anything crazy. It's just hormones. Just hormones.
I get it though. It's scary. I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't amazing at injecting myself. It's one thing to do it to someone else. To put a needle in yourself.
You were asking me.
Yeah.
She was asking me because she did it after me. And she was like, oh my God, this is like crazy injecting myself. I'm like, aren't you a nurse in fertility? At this age too, or at our age at least, I feel like so many people have gone through it. I actually had a friend who had just done IVF right before. So she FaceTimed me, walked me through the shots. Like, there's a community. It makes it easier.
Gabby, did you find that like in the scheme of like at this time, you've probably been going through so many like doctor's appointments, hospital visits, different treatments. How did this sit in the scheme of like, I guess, like taking up space in your mind for what you had going on?
Yeah, I think that I very much just had to approach things one step at a time. Like when I was first diagnosed, I was trying to learn everything I possibly could about thyroid cancer. I wanted to know what questions I should be asking the surgeons that I'm meeting with to make sure I'm choosing the right surgeon for me. I wanted to make sure that I was thinking through every possible consideration and everything's learning about the surgery, talking to people who had a similar surgery to understand what that recovery looked like. And then after the surgery and after I was somewhat recovered, then I could kind of go into the next phase, like, let me start thinking about my fertility treatment. And I think it was actually really helpful for me because at the end of the day, I was thinking about cancer and fertility and my doctor's appointments and everything all the time anyway. So I think it was actually a pretty productive use of my energy to at least be trying to learn and understand and ask questions. And I'm a super action oriented person. So to be able to be like, okay, this, then this, then this, and what do I have to do next to set myself up for success? I think was the best way to, if I was going to be thinking about all of this constantly anyway, at least let's use, like, make it productive.
Were you working during all of this?
So, kind of. I took 3 weeks off after my surgery to recover. And then I worked virtually during my egg freezing process because I ended up deciding to do egg freezing in Maryland rather than in New York, which made it really easy for me because I had my mom driving me back and forth to appointments. I give major props to people who do it in the city and who aren't feeling well and have their hormones going crazy and need to like subway to appointments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And you're like
and
waddling around by the end too. You're like,
yep, exactly. Yep. And so that made it so much easier. And then again, I was working virtually because I was in Maryland. I don't know if you work in person or not, but like I couldn't imagine just going to the office every day and acting like things are completely normal when you're dealing with so much at all times and your hormones and emotions are going crazy.
yeah, it was, we both were in the office. It's definitely interesting. By the end, I was like, I need to work remote, like close to my retrievals because I was like, I can't move or speak right now.
Yeah. And then obviously you had to go on and have some more treatment. You said you had to have further treatment for your thyroid. So you kind of did surgery, egg freezing, and then went and had further treatment for the thyroid. Did you stay down in Maryland for your thyroid treatments?
No, actually, all of my doctors related to my thyroid cancer treatment were based in New York. So I was in New York. My parents basically relocated here for a while, but no, that was in New York.
Did they give you a time frame after egg freezing in which you had to wait, or did you get straight into your treatment?
No, it was more so they give a time frame between your surgery and when they suggest doing radioactive iodine treatment. They say between 3 and 6 months. I, being the control freak I am, wanted to do everything in as condensed of a time period as possible because I just wanted to know that like I was done, I was complete, did this work? Can I go back to normal life now? So I was being super neurotic about, okay, I have July 9th to July 25th to do egg freezing. Like, please make this work. And I'm starting second week of August, radioactive iodine treatment. I'm giving myself a 1 week break in between and like we're going.
And so did your fertility clinic utilize oral contraception to try and give you the timeline you wanted, or did it work out for you with your periods?
Yeah. So I take birth control and I probably shouldn't, but I skip my sugar pills a lot. So they had me get off of my birth control and I wasn't getting my period when I should, right away. So they gave me some sort of prescription that's I don't know what it's called exactly, but it's supposed to bring on your period. So they were able to control that timing a little bit.
Okay, interesting. So I think that's an experience for a lot of people. I mean, we can go into this with some doctors in the future. When I went off oral contraceptive, I didn't have a regular or normal period for 12 months. So I think for a lot of people, there is a journey after coming off contraception to try and figure out their cycles again naturally. But you had the time constraints of wanting to do it before treatment. So it's good that they were able to give you those options and find a way to make it work for you.
I have a question. You might be able to answer this. So even if you go off birth control and you don't bleed, can't you still be going through the cycle and you find out in your blood work? Like you're ovulating here, you can start freezing here.
It's just the predictability. So for them to try and figure out where you are at in your cycle is really tricky because if we can't kind of figure out when your ovulation is and then when your period's coming, it's a lot harder until you have a more regular cycle. So it's just trying to find your baseline to get you started on your meds at baseline. That can be really tricky if we don't know what your cycle is.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, because I know can freeze on your IUD, and with an IUD you don't bleed anyway, but they can check by your blood.
Right, so they can. It's just a bit hard. It's harder.
It's harder.
With now, like, living without a thyroid, what does that look like for you?
I didn't even know you could live without a thyroid.
Yeah, so I take a medicine called Synthroid, which is a thyroid replacement medication. And I think that was actually something that surprised me just after everything happened, because I was kind of at a point where my treatment was all done. I'm recovered from my surgery. I can kind of go back to my normal life, but I wasn't feeling like my normal self. I was really struggling a lot with my energy, and that's not something I've ever had an issue with. I've always been a super busy person, high energy, never needed a lot of sleep, but I very much felt like I was dragging a lot of the time. So it took some time to kind of adjust my dose of my Synthroid several times until I felt like I was at a place where I felt good. And it's interesting because you get blood work that kind of gives you an indication of, is this the right amount you should be on? How can we tweak this? But there's definitely an art to it as well. So I think it's really important just to be in tune with your body and kind of advocate for yourself. I'm actually right now I'm changing my dose again. It's too high at this point. So I think it's just something that you kind of have to deal with on an ongoing basis and just be really aware of how you're feeling.
Yeah. So you obviously have to be quite in tune with your body and listen to your body, because I think for a lot of us, when we're like, oh my God, I'm so tired, we're like, well, it's because it's like the holiday season. I'm going out a lot. But for you, that's a whole other ballgame now, because you are reliant on a synthetic medication to give you a function that usually you have at something in your body that does that for you. So I think that's kind of cool in a way. Like, if there's any positive that's come from this experience for you, you are probably someone who's a lot more in tune with their health and their body than the average person.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it was hard at first to kind of advocate for myself and figure out, like, I think I need to change this dose, because I hadn't really felt like myself for a while. I had gone through several months of surgeries and egg freezing and other treatments. So it's really hard to quantify or qualify, like, is this baseline how I should be feeling? So definitely just like being aware and trying to be in tune with your body as best as possible.
So you got your thyroid removed and then did egg freezing. So you're saying at that time your energy levels just plummeted. How did the hormones and the shots make you feel? Like, for me, I had the most energy I've ever had in my life from the shots. People say the opposite. I was like on speed. Like, I couldn't even drink coffee. I couldn't sleep. I was just like nonstop.
I don't really remember what the injections actually did to my energy, because I think I was just like so out of whack in so many ways. I will say I'm not a crier at all. I'm not emotional. I'm not sensitive. I think I cried more times in the 2-week period of egg freezing than I did in my entire cancer journey, and like probably more years than that. So those injections definitely mess with your hormones.
Totally.
Energy wise, I think I was like a little bit more sluggish, but I don't know how much it was that I was just like physically, emotionally drained. I was using new medication. So I don't really know if that was the shots or just everything else going on.
Yeah. Can I ask you now? I don't even know if it's something that maybe you've discussed, but you obviously do you see an endocrinologist for your thyroid now? Yeah.
Yes.
Has the conversation ever come up with that doctor what maybe trying to naturally conceive one day might look like for you? Like, is there an assumption that it might be a little bit more tricky because you have this issue underlying, you're relying on medication to help with your, day-to-day function? Has that conversation ever come up?
Not as it relates specifically to my synthroid, but yes, as it relates to just my overall treatment and diagnosis. The assumption is that there's a very high likelihood that I'll be able to get pregnant naturally and I'll never need to use the eggs that I froze. Again, like we'll see. I didn't do testing after all of my treatment to see how my levels may have changed, but the idea is that my treatment likely did not do anything too detrimental to my fertility and that I should be able to get pregnant naturally.
Are you comfortable with like the amount of eggs that you do have frozen? Would you ever consider a second round? I know you were really young. You were 24 when you did it, so I assume your results were great.
Yeah, so I was really lucky. My results were great. We were able to retrieve 34 eggs and freeze 31. So I think it was a one and done situation for me. Sorry, I needed a win then though.
You
So-
did. No, I'm so grateful for you for that situation.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. Like, I have certain friends, and sounds like you had this experience too, who had to do back to back cycles. And I could not imagine how draining that is. So I'm very lucky. I do not plan on doing another cycle.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I think in the scheme of things, for what you were going through, that was a big win and you deserved it. That's for sure. I mean, at the time you did it, you were 24. That's pretty young in the scheme of people that start to even think about egg freezing.
Mm-hmm.
Did that make anyone in your life around you ask you many questions? Or do you feel like maybe now you're a couple more years older, you've actually maybe got more friends now that are thinking about egg freezing and they can kind of probably go to you?
Yeah, no, definitely. At the time, I was for sure the first of my friends to do egg freezing. Most of them hadn't even thought of it at the time. So definitely was the guinea pig for my friends. Shortly after, I've had a couple friends since realize that they were having fertility issues and went through egg freezing as well at 25. So definitely was able to answer some questions for them and just talk about that overall experience. I also just really encourage anyone at my age to do baseline fertility testing, whether you're going to act on it or not. I think that it's really good to have that knowledge. It's super easy to have those tests done, and like there's really no reason not to at least have that information so that you can make decisions for your future proactively. So I've had friends since just go in and test their AMH levels, see what their follicle count is to know, like, okay, I'm good for now. I'm not going to do anything, but at least I'm aware.
And they've all gone in because of you, because you did it.
Not necessarily, but
at 25, like I would never have thought to do that. Both my sisters went in because of me. My middle sister is fine. My younger sister also had low AMH like me. So she was 25 and went through 2 egg freezing cycles at the time, 24, 25 at the time. But she would have never thought about it if I, at 29 years old, didn't go in and check, you know?
Yeah. I think the benefit of like trying to draw attention to this to a younger demographic of women as well is that even if your fertility levels aren't amazing when you are younger, the presumption is that your quality is higher. And so I think it is, obviously your circumstance was different. However, your mom did say, and she has worked in the fertility industry as your 25th present, like this is something. So I think that is where that comes from. It's about the younger you are, ideally the better quality your eggs are. And I think that's why we're really trying to spread awareness as well, that for young women, maybe this should be like a 21st like birthday overall, like go and get your annual done with your doctor. And why don't you just check what your AMH looks like or whatever?
Yeah. And I think there's this narrative that egg freezing is something you do in your late 30s. But to your point, the science actually favors doing it earlier when your eggs are of higher quality, when your body's at its healthiest. So, like, really just the idea you don't need to be in crisis to do it. You don't need to be sick. You don't need to be single. You don't need to be older. You don't need to be actively having fertility issues. It can just be a tool. And for me, like it was about giving myself options, and it made me feel calm and in control during a time when a lot felt chaotic.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to look at it.
It is a really good way to look at that. I think a lot of people, like when you talk about the control too, the thing with IVF and egg freezing is you aren't in control of your outcome, but you are right in that you are in control of having options for yourself in the future. So I think when people go through it, and you maybe even found this a little bit tricky, is when you're actually going through the process, you have no control of what the outcome is going to be.
Mhm.
However, you do have the control of making the decision and trying to be proactive in
sure.
securing something for yourself for the future, even if it is just to give yourself a little bit of a sense of security. I think it's a really important thing.
Mhm. Is there anything we missed? Anything you want to address specifically?
I mean, I guess for me, one of my biggest takeaways from like my cancer experience, fertility, is that you're your own biggest advocate. So I encourage like everyone become an expert to the best of your ability in order to make the right decisions for yourself. And obviously you have to leave the rest to the actual experts. And I'm so lucky that I had such great doctors for my cancer treatment, for my fertility treatment. But at the end of the day, no one cares more about your health or your future than you do. And so when it comes to health and with my diagnosis and with my fertility in particular, there was so much that I didn't know at the time. And I found it really comforting to read and to learn and to ask questions, because the more I understood what I was dealing with, the less uncertain and the less scary things felt. And I think that that just goes back to why it's so important for everyone to just have the baseline knowledge of what your fertility looks like so that you can be proactive and make decisions for yourself and just be informed about your own body.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think you sort of alluded to it a little bit before when you were talking about advocating for yourself, even in your thyroid journey. When you find a doctor or you go to a doctor, are you someone, it sounds like you equip yourself with the knowledge to go in and try and not just be the patient in the room, but be the advocate for yourself. Did you find with fertility that you were looking for a certain kind of doctor, or like how did you find your clinic? Like what was your process for that?
Yeah, I would say with fertility, I relied a lot on my mom, whereas like thyroid cancer, we were all kind of starting at zero knowledge base, really like looking to different people who had some knowledge to prepare me for the conversations to be had. With fertility, I was so lucky that my mom was so knowledgeable and knew so many people in the space. There were so many people I could lean on and really leverage their expertise. So that was a much easier process for me to kind of just trust my mom and trust the people that I know in her network and really, like they're the best of the best. So I was really fortunate to know I was in good hands.
Yeah. I'm not sure if we asked you since we started recording, what does your mum do? What is her link to fertility?
Yeah, she worked on the business side of a fertility company. So more operations focused, but she worked very intimately with both clinics and physicians, but also patients seeking treatment. So I think she had a really good perspective into the clinical and scientific aspect of fertility treatment, but also the very personal side of patients seeking fertility treatment and why they might be doing so. So that was obviously always super helpful to be able to hear growing up things like AMH and follicle counts and estrogen levels and not having those be foreign terms to me, but also her just being an advocate for doing something like this proactively and not making it a huge, big, dramatic deal. And
Mhm.
it's just something that women can do to protect your fertility and your future.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
love that.
I think it's really important to have a good support network around you. And you seem like you have an incredible family that supported you through a really, really tough time in your life. And I'm just so happy that it's all worked out. Because would you say today, like you are generally a pretty healthy person?
Yeah, no, I feel great. I feel super lucky that it's kind of all in the past and was a relatively, obviously, it was a tough time, but it was pretty short and condensed. And yeah, overall healthy and feeling really good.
So, something we ask all of our guests at the end of each episode is what has you scrambled in life today?
Yeah, you guys are hitting me with the hard questions. I think right now, packing for my upcoming trip has me scrambled, specifically trying to pack like a normal person for a 1 week vacation instead of overpacking like I'm moving there for the next month.
Where are you going?
We're going to Hawaii.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm a terrible overpacker. I'm hoping not to be too terrible this time around, but
Okay,
we'll see.
if I can give you a tip.
yep.
I travel a lot. Obviously, I'm from another country, so I have to commute a lot around the world to just visit friends and family. However, recently I went on a trip to Europe and my bag never came back with me. So if that taught me anything, it's only take what you need for the trip
Yep.
because otherwise you're going to lose it all, baby. Pack as if you might never see it again.
Yeah.
I'll try to take that to heart. I don't know. We'll see.
Anyway, that'll be nice to get out of this freezing cold weather that we're experiencing in New York.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yes, I'm excited for some sunshine. My skin needs a tan.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, if anything, you're super inspirational. Good for you. Everyone advocate for themselves. I'm so glad you're healthy.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, it was great to be on this. Thanks for inviting me. I know you guys have a ton of great guests lined up, so I'm excited to keep listening to the episodes you guys have coming out.
Oh, thank you. We're excited.